And just like that, we are live on another Wednesday afternoon. How's everybody doing today? We have a special guest today. It was like
Richard
I
Tubbs
don't know
growing
whether
some hair.
I don't know whether you guys are familiar with what they do here in the United States, but they pull a groundhog out of the ground every year to predict how long winter's going to be. So Punxsutawney Phil. So I'm not saying you're a groundhog, Robert, but we've pulled you from hiding to be on the show today. And he told me this is only the second time he's allowed somebody to interview him. So we're super stoked to have you today, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you for asking. Well, thank you for continually asking and then finally getting me on.
Yeah, he's been hitting that delete button. This is not the first time I've asked him. I think I've asked him 4 or 5 times, and he just hits delete and ignores me. So
you just finally wore him down.
I didn't take it personally, my friend, because here you are, and we appreciate it. We've got some fun stuff to talk about to this week. What do you guys have going on this week? Anything special, exciting? Pete, have you broken or frozen anything this week? So,
from something relevant, I've completely reorganized my week, so now I have less time for coaching, but more time to prepare for them, if that makes sense. So that's been good. No disasters this week. I've got a new phone that's turned up. I've got the new S23, but that's just my YouTube life. No, it's all good. How about yourselves?
Doing well.
It doesn't look like you have an app named YouTube.
There you go. So you just set your watch off. Welcome Tim Kidney to the show. We have John Sarzosa. He's from chilly southern Minnesota, as they say here in the States. We got all kinds of different accents here in the States. So Pittsburgh area has their own unique accent. Like it is probably the most a peculiar accent I've ever in the States. But anyway, we won't go there. It's sunny today. It's supposed to be up in the 50s, so I'm not freezing, unfortunately, John. So how about you guys? What's the weather like over in UK? Since you all three are in the UK. So
you know what? Not bad. Really, yeah, it's cold but sunny. So my recent solar panel project, every day.
Yes. Is it all in now?
Oh yeah, all done. Battery, solar. I did it all myself.
Very nice.
And it worked, wow. and I didn't blow myself up. So yeah.
Not yet, anyway, huh?
No, there's still time. I think in summer, like when it gets really sunny, maybe the house will set on fire. But who knows? We've got months before that happens.
Exactly. So we'll know when you don't turn up for one of the shows what happened. So you'll be like Wile E. Coyote from the cartoons. So just be torched.
That'll probably be me with just a little brown sign that says "Uh-oh," and the house is on fire in the background.
He's got char marks on his face. So
yeah. My hair will be burnt. Oh, wait a second. It was nice to see Tim Kidney. Tim responded to a challenge that I put out on LinkedIn the other week about just do it when it comes to video, and like same week. Absolutely beautiful. It was lovely to see you, Tim, and really great to hear you. Yeah. It was so nice. And Tim runs a company, an MSP called Funky Mouse, where he is the chief mouse. And I just think that's so nice. It's so cool. Just like we've all come up with these boring tech names. I mean, what is a Cloud Nexus anyway? But Funky Mouse, I love it. It's so cool. It's so good.
I did too. Yeah, he was on my Friday jam session last week. So I popped up his LinkedIn profile. It's things like that stand out. Like it's just outside the norm. And Robert, you and I were talking about that, how uncomplicated it actually is to stand out from the norm, especially in this industry. It doesn't take tons of effort.
Yeah, too many IT companies have IT in their name or computers or technology in their name. We need to move away from that.
Yeah, for sure.
But is it not a really clever way of fooling the Google search thing of like, well, if you're searching for IT support and IT support's in the name, then
yeah,
I don't know. You're the Mr. Analytics. I'll ask you.
Well, honestly, we used to find that with particularly on Google Maps. If you're searching for businesses on like the Maps side of things, if you've got like the name in your and certainly local, if you're a hyper-local MSP and you're, I don't know, Portsmouth's IT support company, if you literally called yourself Portsmouth IT support company, you'd be like number one because it would be there. If you happen to live on Portsmouth Road, then you'd be in there as well. Like it's as many times as you can get the location name into there as well. But it does seem to work.
Yeah, and I think, from a brand perspective, yeah, I like what Tim is doing there. It's like it's stuck in my brain. Like I won't forget that name, and yeah, so it's kind of a catch-22 when it comes to YouTube and algorithms and all that fun stuff. When it
I
comes to
suppose
marketing.
it also helps that if you're an MD and you've got a bit of personality about it, then you can use that to brand. But if you don't have personality, then go with IT support.
Yeah. Tony Edwards joining the show again this week. Appreciate that, my friend. Everybody's tuning in. So let's talk about that. We came the term upserving. Richard actually interviewed, was it Bob Berg, on one of his, I didn't pull that up, my apologies, on one of his blog posts. So we've talked about upselling our clients. I think we covered that on the first show of this year and planning for this year, how that should definitely be a recurring goal of ours is getting all of our customers to buy everything we sell. And I like that terminology better because we get weirded out when it comes to selling. So rather than upselling, I like that term upserving. So that's what we kind of want to talk about today is how do we do that? And this is the reason I've been wanting to get Robert on here, because Robert messaged me, was it probably about a year ago, not even a year ago, and told me
October, November.
He had increased sales last year. Was it 65%? Did I get that right?
Something around that figure, yeah.
Increased sales by 65% from his current customer base. And I thought that was amazing.
There was a few new customers, but a lot of them were the existing customers because we all know it's easier to sell to the people that you're already talking to.
Yeah, exactly. So tell us about what kind of put you down that strategy, because it seemed like you worked heavily on that last year and kind of put a lot of your eggs in that basket as far as directing your efforts to that. So tell us a little bit about the thinking behind that and kind of the methodology, if you will, behind that strategy.
I was going to say we'd go through this at the end of today's session, so we keep all the viewers guessing and waiting. But you know what? No, let's just go through it now. So it's not original. This was something that Richard Tubb has talked about many times. Paul Green, who I'm well connected with, has talked about. And it's all about white space or the green dots, however you want to call it. But we also took last year to have a look at the stack of the tools that we use within our MSP. Make sure that they're the future-proof tools, not the ones that we've used for the last 5, 6, 7, or 8 years. Because if you're using something from 7 years ago, it's not going to last you the next 5 years. And then really it was, using that spreadsheet, as I said, the white space, having all your customers down one side, all the services across the top, and getting as many of those cells filled in as possible. So when I started it, I think we were just less than 3 cells per customer. At the close of 2022, when I re-looked at it, I think we were 6.2 cells per customer. So
wow,
no real extra customers, but doubling the amount of services to them.
So what was your strategy for getting in front of those prospects and offering that? Sorry to interrupt you, Scott. Do you have a question?
It was my question. Yeah, that's what I want to know, because we in our previous business, when we did a lot of acquisitions, we would always try and plot out how many products per customer do we have. And no one ever knew. They would never take the time to make the list down the left and make the products cross top and put all the crosses in the boxes. They just didn't do it. But they would constantly be talking about cross-sell and upsell, land and expand. As soon as we buy this company that does this one thing, we're going to then sell all of our other products to them. And then they never did. And so it was nice to have that idea. And we talk about this a lot on the show of having this spreadsheet. Getting the MSPs to do that is one job. Cool. But then the next step is the execution. How do you then go, did you do it by this is our most profitable product, this is our easiest sell, this is the easiest, quickest thing for us to close? What was your kind of strategy around going through that that process?
Okay, so the strategy was looking at those customers that were taking the least, and then having a think about what are the mandatory services that we really need those customers to be taking as a minimum, and if they weren't taking them, having that conversation, or emailing them if they're a small company and it's only a couple of quid difference. Don't waste too much time on going out to see them, but just an email to say we are going to opt you in. If you really don't want it, you have to opt out, and if you want to opt out, I'm going to send you a disclaimer.
Nice.
Simple.
So we've seen those disclaimers in the Tech Tribe before, where it's like you can opt out of this, but you need to know we won't be responsible for this, because we believe it's a fundamental part of your business security to have this.
Yeah.
And what was the response like? Did you get people opting out, or very, very few opt outs?
We had less than 3% opt out.
Wow.
It was probably more than that asked to opt out, but that opt out did the exact job that we wanted it to do, and it really made them think. And when you actually bullet point all the reasons, and then that if they have an issue, they can't come to you because they have opted out. Yeah. It was like, actually, you know what? We've had a think about it. For that £7 a month, actually, we'll take the service. Thank you.
Yeah. No, totally. I love it. And it's having that boldness as well of saying, like, this is our minimum standard. This is what we need to get you to. Otherwise, we're going to have to limit our SLA or our responsibility. And, especially we've seen so many cyber threats and cyber attacks that keep happening. You're putting yourself out there and going, we won't be responsible if this happens. And I'm not saying that automatically means that you are responsible, but you're saying we will totally disclaim responsibility because you don't meet the bare standards.
Yeah, I mean, at the gatherings that we'd go to, the CompTIA and stuff like that, I talked to other IT companies, and I was talking with Chris Ward from Vermont, and he has a very similar way of looking at the business that he looks after. And if that person doesn't want to upgrade their server 2008 because they clearly don't care about the business, why should he care about it? So, if you don't care about the business, don't hold us to blame when it goes wrong.
Is there any risk there? Because I know, wasn't the recent case where an MSP did kind of get, I don't know if they got sued at the end of the day, but they came after the MSP and the MSP were at fault, even though they had disclaimers in place and they'd obviously tried to quote and had the quotes rejected.
I saw this, and I think it was a thread actually in the Tech Tribe. And it was a template that he used. It wasn't a Tech Tribe template, but it was a template that he used, and the wording wasn't in the favor of the MSP. So basically, I can't get your contract by somebody. It went to court, and the court found in favor of the client, not the MSP, because the wording said that we would look after, or we would guarantee something. And they clearly hadn't read the template before issuing it out to their clients. Yeah. And that's it. Do your homework.
Yeah. That's it. I think the ones I've seen previously as well is the court had said, and Pete, I've tried to find this article again. I've genuinely tried, but I remember it saying that the MSP hadn't been specific and persistent enough in their advice that the client did not have anything backed up. And so when there was a ransomware attack and everything essentially got encrypted, the MSP was saying, hey, we told you this could happen. And the feedback from the court in that situation was, no, you weren't clear enough. As technical experts, you hadn't made it abundantly clear to the business that this was a risk. Yeah. Yes, you tried to sell them backup, but you hadn't made the risk clear. And so I think,
maybe like the disclaimer part wasn't made in place for them particularly.
Exactly. So I think this messaging.
Yeah. Cool. On the backup one, I've got the URLs to Microsoft, Amazon, Dropbox, and Google, where they all say we are not a backup service. Go and get third party. And So we pointed our customers to the Microsoft one for Microsoft 365 to say, Microsoft are saying it, so we're going to turn it on for you.
Mm-hmm.
And we got more thanks than anything else. So, yeah, absolutely brilliant. To answer Westway IT's question, when I started building up the spreadsheet of the services and the cells, we were about 27 columns. That's when I decided that we would actually look at the technology stack and reduce that. And I think we're down to about 16 or 17 columns now. And I could reduce that more.
I was going to ask, it seems like that's a great time for you to go, we have 1 or 2 people taking this service from us. And then you can look at the overheads or the cost or the support risk of having to keep people trained on that one tiny little product that doesn't have any traction. And then you can kind of rein it back in and go, actually, we're going to move you to this, or we can consolidate, or do you know what? We just don't do that anymore. Was there much of that you saw? Obviously bringing it down to 16 products.
Yeah, we moved plenty of customers, but we didn't actually have to tell them, and it was moving from vendor A to vendor B on a security stack. And, the security stack that we have now, all the technicians here know that security stack well, whereas we had one security product that we were supplying to one client and nobody knew how to work it here. So it was get that customer off that platform.
So it sounds like it did a couple things for you to help you guys streamline business, to make the delivery of the services much easier, but it also had added bonus of getting more revenue. So
and it's not just the revenue as well. Yes, Pete.
How would you recommend people get started? Because this is something that I, along with this particular report, and also the client profitability report, it's one of the most common things that I think everyone needs to have, and yet no one still does them. The client products matrix and the profitability. You sound like was yours more of a manual process? Did you manage to automate it anyway? Obviously, a huge part of huge fan of automation, but fundamentally, if you do it manually, it's still just as good.
It started off manually. It has become a bit more automated, so we can run the report now, and it probably takes us 2 or 3 hours. But putting the report together in the first place actually took me over a month. Wow. And it was literally, it was painful, but lock yourself away in a dark room. When you've got 180 odd contracts down one column and 23 columns across, it's a huge spreadsheet, and you're looking at every single invoice to say, what's that service? Well, that could be the same as that one and that one and that one, and then say, right, we've got to move customer A, B, and C and get it all centralized. And as I said, now we've reduced the amount of columns, and then target for 2023 is to reduce those columns again.
And so what does your manual process look like now? You say it takes 3 to 4 hours or so. Is that it's manually scraping through data and importing it in? How does it work?
So our PSA tool spits our PSA tool along with our invoicing spits out a nice CSV that I can quickly set up some filters that I've recorded in macros, and it's job done.
Cool, awesome. Okay. Have you ever
tend to do that at the beginning of the month or the end of the month?
Maybe Halo or something. Sorry.
So go ahead, Pete.
I was just going to ask, have you ever looked at doing it within the PSA? I'm not sure which PSA you're using, but using the built-in reports?
I haven't. That will probably be the next stage. We use Autotask as our PSA.
Okay.
And having not used Autotask until I came to Cara, so I've only been with the Autotask PSA for 2 years. I'm still learning a hell of a lot about it.
Yeah, that's the problem I find with Autotask and ConnectWise, the bigger boys. You have to really know how to write reports to get some good data out of it.
Yeah, I mean they're huge beasts, and I understand that if you can get it to work, it can work fantastic for you. But coming in as a newbie, it's a bit like rabbit in headlights.
Those of you just
For
watching,
those that are using-
Danny Chaplin, I'm just going to, sorry, Pete, I'm going to welcome a couple people. Danny Chaplin from the Midlands. If you guys have questions for Robert, please put those in the comments. So I want to make sure we get the questions answered. Those of you tuning in live.
They are allowed to ask questions to Scott and Pete as well, you know.
We got you came for the grilling, man. We're gonna leave you
One
charred
day
and
only.
burned.
Special.
Go
You
ahead,
can
Pete.
ask me
Sorry to
questions
interrupt
about
you.
how do I keep my hair so shiny? The answer is dog biscuits. No, so Robert, I mean, what you've done in the 2 years at Cara is phenomenal. But just in no uncertain terms, it's absolutely phenomenal. The growth to drive that much upserving into the existing base, and to then even just to document and simplify your product stack, making sales easier, making support easier, making every delivery easier, because it's now getting into a smaller pack of products, and the aspiration to do that again in the next year. Genuinely, it's outstanding, and I think it's inspirational for the MSPs that are joining the call and listening in on the podcast. So I don't ever want to diminish what you've achieved, because I think it's absolutely fantastic, and that's why we wanted you on the show, to show that we talk about this stuff a lot, build the spreadsheet, do the cross-selling, do cross-sell and upsell. And everyone kind of looks at it like a theory, and we go, no, here's the proof. Here's a guy who walked into Cara 2 years ago. And I know there's a team, and I know it's a whole effort, but that strategy that you've driven has been phenomenal. It really is. And I'd love to know, I mean, did you have to, because obviously you've got to do all the research and talking to the customers, and you've said, for the small ones and twos, just email them and tell them you're increasing the price, you're changing the service, whatever it is. But for the bigger clients, did you have to sort of increase any sales resource, or was any account management resource, or was it just you would work with the account managers and tell them, hey, this is the picture we need to paint. Please go and chat to your clients, and this is what we're doing?
I suppose there's a bit of everything in there. As I said, we've got new tools in the stack. So it's talking to those bigger customers saying, that product that we sold you X number of years ago, it's been superseded. We want you to switch you to this product because it's going to service you better. Yeah, that's absolutely brilliant. Yeah, can we turn that on now? Yes, please. People think it's really complicated. I know we were talking about this earlier, Andrew, about uncomplicating uncommunicate the complicated. People upgrade their phone without even thinking about it. So why can't we upgrade our services?
I don't have an answer. I don't have an answer. Yeah.
We all want the latest and the greatest. So do it.
Honestly, like the internal, not the internal, but like the upselling and that kind of thing. I know this is like old now, but my dad like made his career by doing exactly that. He basically came into a business that was just selling to new clients, and all he did was focus on the new clients. And he came in and went, who's serving the existing clients? Who's looking at the existing clients? Nobody was doing it. And he literally just looked at the existing clients, and he broke all the sales records, smashed all of his targets. Like, everyone hated him because he was bringing in so much money for the business, because he just focused on the one thing that no one else was focusing on. So I think focusing on your own clients it's easier, because you don't have to go out and do all the marketing and the sales and the whole like prospecting thing. You've got the clients, they've already bought from you. There's that whole I'm going through at the moment for like looking at core sales and like the whole kind of the funnel side of things. Once someone's paying you money, it's a lot easier to get them to pay you again or more money, because they're already an existing paying client. They know the service they're getting. So yeah, absolutely going back and going through all your services. Did you ever run into any issues, and how did you handle it if you did? Of I don't know if you were offering things like lease lines or connectivity or backup systems where they were already in contract.
No, we don't do lease lines or anything like that. So, we are just a pure MSP. We don't do connectivities. We don't do phones. We don't do websites. We got partners that will, and happily, introduce you to the partners. But we don't touch those, because again, the stack that we now have, the guys on the service desk know everything about that stack.
And were there certain parts of the columns that you had Were there some of those they're a default, we're going to put you on this, and some of those were a discussion? And where did you draw the boundary between which ones were a discussion and which ones were automatically, we're going to just start charging you for it?
So the default ones were the mandatory ones. So very easy. You've got to start with your antivirus, your ransomware, your malware protection, and your backups. If any of the clients didn't want any of those services, then you've got to question, are they the right clients for you? And then having a look at the additional services around, what type of business are they? If they're heavy on email, then talk to them about Exclaimer. Email signatures that they can change the little advert at the bottom on a frequent time or a frequent basis. If they're not heavy in email, then that's not really the service for them. So don't try and push it.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think the other thing as well is, when you do reduce your stack, it's working with the vendors as well. Don't forget about them, because if those vendors can upsell to you, then you can upsell to your clients. If you're ignoring the vendors upselling to you, you've got nothing to upsell.
Yeah, there's a couple questions come in. One from Tim Kidney. He said, I'd like to work Growably, which is the CRM provided by the Tech Tribe, into automating, upselling, and nurturing a particular package towards a sale. Is this recommended to use a CRM with clever sequences and workflows?
Yes.
I think
how often do you guys send that out?
Yeah, I think Scott was saying, if they're like ones and twos, just send them an email, get the change done, and be done with it. I think certainly if there are lots of larger clients, then maybe a more personalized approach would work. I'm a huge fan of just automating the heck out of anything you can possibly automate. But there's nothing quite to be said for a bit of a personalized service. So it's finding that balance between getting the message out versus not having enough time to get the message out. So I think it's just finding, it depends on who you are, how many clients you've got, the size of the clients. But absolutely. And I think in terms of this kind of hooks into, using a CRM system like Growably, and using your PSA system right as well. And the way I'd, trying to get it set up right to start with. So having the correct contract types when you're setting up contracts within the PSA systems, because then when you're doing these kind of automations back to Growably or ActiveCampaign or any other CRM system, you can basically look for, does this client have a contract that exists for this type? And if they don't, then they'll be on the list that then gets the email that then can talk about upselling them to that client. So there are lots of ways of doing it. It's just, and again, you've got to spend the time implementing that. But I'm, a fan of, I'd rather do it once and then it's done, and rather than having to keep going back and making tweaks and then doing it manually, and just gets very messy. And then you forget which ones you've done. But yeah, spend the time, get it done, do it automated if you can do. But you can't quite, put a price on doing it yourself if you can do.
I think you picked on a point there, Pete, making sure that everything is correct. So PSA, CRM, make sure that the filters are right. Because I think that's the biggest headache that I've got at the moment, is making sure that if somebody's taking a service, that all the knock-on filters are filled in. So I'm not advertising a service to somebody that's already got it.
Yeah, that would be really awkward.
Yeah.
You're like, have you heard of this new mail filtering, like the one you've already sold us? Backpedaling.
Andrew, you might be best known for this. With Growably specifically, how are people dealing with the integrations? Are there any integrations between Growably and PSAs and anything else really? How are they getting clients between the two?
There is. It's actually a white label called Lead Connector. There's a Zapier has built-in functions. The more functionality is there's a company called GHL Tools. Growably's built on Go high level. But there's a company that's built an awesome integration with Make or Integramat, formerly Integramat. But yes, it allows you to easily push data out into just about all the PSA tools. But I think specifically the PSA tools mainly are working with Zapier. I think some of them are starting to see the integrations with Make and are providing the little connectors between the PSA and CRM tools.
I don't think any of them quite at the... I mean, considering it's an IT tool, I don't think any of them are quite at the stage they really should be for the integrations. Like being able to display all of the fields through their API. I think at the moment you can only really trigger on when user is created, when company is created, but you don't get to see the contracts behind them, the tags on their contact, or like any of the other information that would be like super useful to be able to then add them into the right groups at the other end. So yeah, hopefully they'll get there eventually, but who knows?
Yeah, I don't. Zomentum seems to be another tool that I hear used a lot when it comes to upserving. As far as being able to categorize that, I know they're heavy on, the sales process, but there's also a piece that I know of with Zomentum to go back when you're doing your QBR or TBRs. But I think they've got some functionality built in there. I'll ping the folks at Zomentum to get some further answers on that, is how to basically take the spreadsheet out of it. If you're already using Zomentum, you may be able to have that functionality built in there that says, here's my clients, here's the services, here's what they do and don't have.
I think we use Zomentum. It's more of that kind of sales quoting, prospecting kind of engine at the moment. So you can integrate with it for mailing lists and that kind of thing. But it doesn't really hold all your contracts and all your services. From what I can see, it's literally sales quote and then pass to an order system. So I know when we took out Zomentum, it was recommended to integrate it with HubSpot. And so HubSpot can then be your pure play CRM and your mail list engine and all that kind of stuff. And then you would have your lists and filters would be passed into HubSpot. And then you can kind of get them into a stage where you want to quote them. That's where Zomentum comes in, and all your digital signatures and, creating the project in your PSA would run through Zomentum once it's approved. But it's, great product, really simplified the sales process for us when we're doing repeatable, scopes of works and orders and things like that. I think the other thing I just wanted to mention to Tim was he was also talking about, it sounds more like prospecting when he's on about nurturing a sale rather than maybe cross-selling or upselling or upserving. I'll get it right one day. I genuinely think like sequences can work really well in establishing a mailing list and consistently just bringing new information to those people in your list. Pete, you've just been growing yours, I think, to about 1,000 subscribers now in your mailing list. But it's that ability for us to just keep, even if it's monthly, just, drop out a note. Here's an update. Here's a new service. Here's some things that we do, because it's all that sort of, hitting the people at the right time when they're ready to buy and staying top of mind throughout that process, isn't it? Because you're not always going to hit the people at the exact time they want to buy. So Tim, I think having that mailing list and having that automation run through, and if you have some good value to give, like you've got a nice PDF ebook or one pager that they're going to download, you can get them to the landing page, they can download it, and you can start to filter them more through that prospecting tool. So you've got your broad catch-all kind of prospecting email list. You've then got the people who've downloaded this particular PDF, so they're more interested. You can then filter it down again. Say, hey, you can have a call to action. Do you want to book in a call to run through that stuff? Did they book in a call? Did they not book in a call? And you can keep filtering that list down so that you're getting really, really specific, and you're seeing exactly who's interacted with however many pieces of content. They're obviously really interested. And so it's a great way to use that to just keep a broad touch with people, but let them know what's happening, or let them know of a new product or service or package it's offering, or even, how you've recently helped another client with a piece of work. Because again, they might just see something about themselves in that they go, we have that challenge, or we're a similar type of business. And it will soon prompt them to, keep you top of mind, keep you right there when they have that IT challenge.
So I took something from one of Andrew Moon's courses about nurturing new customers, and it was the 9 touch points. So I'm a HubSpot user, and I've created a category which is called the journey. So easy, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. If they have opened a marketing email, they're a 1. If they have clicked a link on a marketing email, they're 2. If they've read a PDF that's available, 3, and it's watching their interaction, and I've categorized their interaction. So if they're really interacting with my emails, I can hit them with a different story. Exactly what you were saying, Scott, was, with we've just helped a customer do this. Whereas if they've never really interacted and they're only a 1, that story is going to be lost on them. And then I've also categorized the person that's in it. So whether they're a director, a manager, or an influencer. So again, I have a different message going out to different people, because a director, well, although he's a director, he might be on the golf course a lot. So he's not really going to see the email and action it. So I need to hit the managers and the influencers with the reason why they need this process, so that they could do a business plan. When they then have the board meeting and the directors there, they can say, we need this, go to Cara and get it.
It's it's so smart, and what I love about that is it's the kind of, it sounds like a lot of heavy lifting, right? You go, oh my god, no, I've got to make 9 stages. I've got to write emails. I've got to target people in different ways and have different messages for different people. But like, again, the MSPs we talk to, they're already doing all of this, but they're just doing it ad hoc every time they get an opportunity. And what we're saying is, you're going to sit and you're going to write and you're going to make, 9 touch point emails. You're going to make some PDFs. You're going to do this. It doesn't take long, but the reusability of that now and that categorization that you've got, that automation, then helps, because now you're doing things at scale without even thinking about it. And you're getting someone who's just going stage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I better give this guy a call, because they're rattling through the stages and they're really interested in what we have to offer.
Yep, absolutely. And once they're at stage 5 and I give them a call, they know who I am when I'm calling them.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh yeah, I've had his emails. I've read the PDFs. They're really good. Yeah, I'll talk to him. Whereas if you call them on stage 1, who? What? No, not today.
Yeah, they don't quite know you yet. Westway
And I guess
IT.
also,
I was just going to answer Westway IT's question, if we can get that. How soon after a scheduled price increase would you do a switch? I'm assuming he's probably done the, maybe a year-end price increase. But how far out in it, do you do that this quarter? Like if you just did a price increase in December, do you try to upsell or upserve this Q1, or do you wait a little bit?
If you've just done a price increase, then surely they've got all the services that you need. So they really shouldn't be missing any. I wouldn't go too soon, because you don't want to become the person that only contacts them when you've got something to sell. You need to leave it a little bit, go and have some coffees, go and have some catch-ups without any sales hat on, and just build up that relationship. So I would probably say every 6 months. Have a look at every 6 months.
No, that's good advice. Did you have another question, Scott?
What if you haven't done a price increase yet? So I'm wondering if I'm reading that question. So if you haven't done the price increases, when you're approaching these clients and implementing, like, okay, we're going to just put you on this new product, was that as effective next month, in the next quarter, when contracts like when did it come in?
Oh, if we were turning the service on, I would give them 30 days notice. So 30 days notice with a couple of reminders. The reminder clearly stating when it is going to be turned on and when the billing will start. That's given them plenty of time to opt out.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, kind of going back on that question, I think a lot of MSPs haven't done scheduled price increases, if ever. So I think they're now doing that, but I think melding those two things together, what you're talking about, is not just blindly increasing their prices just to make the profit that you should be making in the first place, but it's going back and reevaluating your tech stack, reevaluating what they should have, then giving them a proper price increase that should include all of those basic services.
You want to give them a proper service. And, if you look at, take the dentist industry, in the last 2 years, 3 years, we've all been to the dentist. Who's paying the same price for their dentist that they were paying 3 years ago?
I've got a solution. You just stop going to the dentist, and that fixes lots of the problems.
Take all your teeth out. There's the solution. Yeah,
there you go.
No, but all these other industries that we work with, solicitors, accountants, they will put their price up at the drop of a hat. Why aren't we? I think our industry is very bad at keeping up to date with pricing. The cost of living is going up. Even before the pandemic, even before the Ukraine war, the cost of living was always going up. And I know many MSPs that haven't put their price up for 3, 4, maybe 5 years. All they've thought about was,
goes back to there was I can't find my LinkedIn. I can't remember the chap's name. The guy shared an infographic of the how inflation has affected various sectors, and IT apparently had gone down by like 5% or something. So we've been making 5% extra money apparently, but we all know that we're just so bad. We're the last people ever to put our prices up, where everyone else has put it up like 20 to 50% already.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people are more scared about putting the price up, so they'll try and go out and win new business.
Yeah.
It's harder to win new business than put the price up.
Exactly. It's like driving a bus with 4 flat tires and adding more people to it. Like that's essentially what you're doing. At some point, you're going to run out of, profit. You're going to run out of sanity. You're going to run out of something at some point.
Yeah.
One thing that we've just added into our the contracts we provide for our coaching clients is the ability to increase the price midterm. So if you're on annual rolling contracts, or if you don't want to tie yourselves into your vendor's pricing, in case 365 obviously now is going 6 monthly price increases. So just making sure you've got regular clauses in there that give you a way to increase prices, when renewal happens anyway, but also increase prices in line with any other vendors that are giving you prices increases to your cost prices. So just worth checking through your own contracts and making sure you've got that stuff in place as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tim Kidney had another question too. He said, "It's a long one. At present, I now only have 3 stacks following the good, better, best. It feels that this discussion leads to being in a position whereby you can add bolt-on services like Exclaimer, Proofpoint to a base package over time." Let me put that back up there. What are your thoughts as to the best way to improve margins, 2 to 3 stacks or base stack with add-ons, kind of a la carte style?
I think you could get into a fight over this discussion. Because I've seen so many on either side of this. I think good, better, best is good. I have to insist that your good meets your minimum standards for security and the customer. Exactly everything that Robert was talking about earlier, because what sometimes happens is good is not good enough, and there's no security in there. And best is where you start to introduce the security things, and that's wrong. Good needs to be your bare minimum, and hopefully that's got all your products in there. And that's why I questioned, just because Proofpoint came up, and I'm like, well, that's one of your security products. Have you got a base security product in your base stack? I think some MSPs are having success with going out and saying, look, it's my way or the highway. Either these are my 1, 2, or 3 stacks, or this is my one and only stack, take it or leave it. Okay. And they're being quite bold that way. But I think the reality is, and maybe Robert, you can talk on this with the volume of clients that you have, is that you'll establish a good, better, best scenario, or perhaps a base stack scenario, but there will always be add-ons because clients are different and they have different needs. But the key is that you don't have so many products in your portfolio that when a client calls, your ticketing system can't clearly identify what products or what stack that they're on. And so therefore you can't give good support, or that you just have such a dwindling knowledge of so many different products that you can't effectively deliver the solution with those. And so keeping the products in those stacks really small, and then maybe still having bolt-ons, but it's a really short selection of products that you can have, I think is key. And whether that's good, better, best, or whether that's a base and add-ons, I think is up to you in the sales process. But I'm keen to hear what Robert thinks.
So good, better, best. It's fantastic to start with something, and it's a great way for you to understand what you sell as an MSP. But I do think that the good, better, best is for the newer MSPs. The more mature MSPs will probably not be, I'm trying to be polite about this, but only have 1 stack, and it's our way or the highway. And then you've got all the different add-ons. But, again, don't complicate or uncomplicate the complicated. So agreeing with Scott, the very lowest of the services must be adequate for your business. If you don't, if you sell good, but really it's going to be painful to maintain, don't sell it. Take it off.
Yeah. Yeah. Tim said yes.
Yeah,
His
definitely.
base
I
does
can't.
have Proofpoint, Sentinel, and 365 backup, so that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't emphasize having that base product as being good enough. My kind of version of that was to always make sure that any client that worked with me, I could go to bed and not worry that I'm going to wake up and they're going to be hacked or something's going to happen overnight or the backup's going to have issues. I want to make sure that I wake up and I'm confident that unless something really, really like does try and get through and they're really targeted, then most of my clients are going to be pretty safe. The one thing I kind of, again, I guess my take on the good, better, best, or whichever way to do it. I always think, getting down to one product was like my ideal final scenario of like, this is going to be, and I say like, this is my one like support service. And then of course you've got unique bolt-ons like the backup service that might be specific to what they've got. I always then used to treat, Microsoft 365 outside of that as well, because I didn't want to have Microsoft bulk up my prices and then make me look expensive when the client's got to pay for that anyway, because they're going to have that regardless of who they go with. But I think getting down to that one final, like that's the one service we offer, was like my kind of golden ticket, because once you've got the one service, you can really focus everything on delivering that one service. All your staff know it. They know exactly what service every single customer is on. They don't have to question, is that with us? Is that with a third party? Do I need to call somebody else? Because everyone has the same service. But then to that kind of hand as well, I always think that you should have a premium product. And I've been taught this so many times over now that you might as well have a premium product because some people will buy it. Maybe only a handful of people will buy the premium product, but people will still buy it. So why can't you take the service you've got and then just find some things that don't cost you a huge amount of money or time or effort to kind of add into that package, whatever you've got, but something that feels and is and can be very, very valuable to your clients. Things like offering those, premium response rates or support numbers or like dedicated staff, assigned engineers, things like that you might be doing within your MSP anyway, but you can market that as an actual feature and something that the higher tier customers can sign up to. We had customers sign up to our like premium package that was double the cost of our normal package, and the only reason they said was because, well, that's the best service you offered, so that's why we signed up to it. So if we didn't have that service, we would have been literally having half the money from those clients, and it feels a bit. I don't want to say it's like disingenuous, but you are generally trying to create a package there that is more valuable. The challenge there is you're not then chucking a ton of products in there that then eat away at all your margins at that stage, because it's very easy to go, we're going to throw in all the security tools under the sun, and now we've got really secure service. But now you're not really making any more or less than you were before. You're just giving them more stuff to then have to manage and look after. So just a service that can give you so much more premium support offerings to your clients without a ton of work involved and a ton of product as well.
And I think another good point, it's something that Robert and Pete, you've both mentioned, is to keep the stacks generic in terms of the naming convention. So you're not saying includes Mimecast backup and archiving, because then that locks you into the ability to change horse on the vendor. So you want to say includes, mail filtering and mail archiving, anti-spam and antivirus protection, whatever it is. But you don't want to be saying things like, I suppose exclaim is a bit of an odd one, perhaps, but maybe someone will make a better one, who knows. But you don't want to be saying things like Proofpoint or naming the backup vendor. You want to define the service that it is bringing, so that if you find an option, maybe there's a better price, a better product, whatever it is, you can review and you can change. Now, again, we always say that you shouldn't switch horses too frequently in your MSP, especially when it comes to your core business systems and the systems that you supply to customers. But I believe it's Ernest Murray in the Tech Tribe who does an annual review of the products and services and stacks, and the contracts are actually written in such a way that it sort of says, 2022 stack, and so they then know which were the products and services that were in that stack and what did they contract to. And so when it comes to renewal, have they maintained those products, or are they switching products? Is there a different vendor in there? And then the next year they've got the 2023 stack. And I'm not saying he changes products every year, but the contracts are written in the right way, the marketing materials are written in the right way around whatever the stacks are, that it keeps it so that they have the ability to change vendor, provided that they're not fundamentally changing the service, I guess, that they're giving to the businesses.
Yeah,
I think that's a really
totally
good
agree
approach
with that.
because one of the things that we used to run into a lot in our early days was when we're trying to piece together these kind of security stacks. You put together a security stack and then you'd go another month and then suddenly there'll be another tool that you need to add into the stack and be like, oh, well, now, Mr. Customer, you need to pay another £2 a month per user to add this into your stack. And it going back to the whole salesy thing, it does start feeling very, very salesy after a while. The only time I call you up is to go and sell you something. So yeah, absolutely taking Robert's comments there. And I think having like the annual. Sorry, Robert, go for it.
No, you go.
I was just going to finish off that. I think having those annual packages works really well because then you can just go, okay, we're going to have this current year as our package, and we're going to have next year's package. And we're never going to allow our customers to go beyond the current year's package. So you might have some 2023 clients now. The oldest you're going to have is 2022. And then when the next lot of renewals comes around, you always bump them up to the next version at least. So it just means a nice way of keeping people within a generation or two's worth of your services.
Yeah, I think coming back to what you mentioned earlier as well, Pete, SentinelOne and other vendors out there, but I'm just using SentinelOne as an example. They have two flavors. So they've got SentinelOne Control and they've got SentinelOne Complete. I would only sell the Complete because it's less admin. And people would say, well, if I've got SentinelOne Control, why didn't you sell me Complete? And it's just reducing that number of services that you sell. So, always go with the top one and push it. It is a bit like, at the moment, Microsoft 365 Business Standard is, the standard, but a lot of people are moving people or businesses to a Business 365 Business Premium SKU and using all those additional tools.
Yeah, that's what we did. 365, the E3 plan, that's what every customer got. Like that was what we standardized on. All of our techs knew exactly how to support that. So I'm all for making it as simple for the techs to deliver service, because that's the other aspect you have to think about. It's not just, okay, this is the cheapest one or this is the most expensive one. And I think going back to that, is having the profit margins in your contract, correct profit margins. Yeah. Sometimes,
and again, that's something we looked at, because you can always dig in, and that biggest invoice that you cut every month might not be the most profitable invoice. So, don't fall into the trap of the biggest customer is the most profitable.
Exactly. So I know we're coming up on the hour. Go ahead.
Here's a very quick question for the three of you, and I want you to answer it in less than a second. Does technology make you happy?
No.
For me, it's
we're all in the wrong job, right?
I've asked so many people, and every time it's like, yes, it does. And then like a minute later go, actually, no, it doesn't.
That's a great question, though. I know Pete's life is around tech, so I know that's probably a catch-22 for him to be caught on camera saying he hates tech.
No, not at all. I mean, there's a lot of fun around it, but also it's just the like you were saying, Robert, before the call, I think with like the watches and the phones, it's just the constant. It's just always there, and it would be so nice just to go and have that like retreat with no technology. But equally, for all of us, technology brings the income. So I have no idea what I'd be doing if I wasn't doing technology.
Yeah, but in your world, Pete, because everything's automated, as soon as you drive home tonight, as soon as you hit on the drive, automation kicks in. Yeah, imagine if you had a power cut at home, there'd be no heating in the house.
That's fine. I've got a battery.
Your garage door wouldn't open. Whatever, technology goes wrong, you hate it.
I'd sleep in my electric car. There's always a workaround.
I actually saw a commercial. I have to dig it up, but that's what it was, all voice activated. And then the guy went to the dentist and had a root canal, and then he came home and tried to open his front door, and it wouldn't understand him. So.
Yeah, I remember. We had the same commercial. I've got two quick points before they leave my brain.
Go ahead.
If that's okay. So we just, because I know the questions that will be ringing in some people's heads. So we just said, make your service stacks generic, make your contracts generic. So they talk about services and not products. Oh, well, what about in the sales process? Because in the sales process, it will make it really easy if I can reference real products and real stats and capability of the vendor and all that stuff. You can still do that. You can absolutely still do that during the process. And what you can say is our current preferred vendor is this, and these are the great things about it, and these are the stats, and this is the the vendor and who they are, why they're so good, and why we've selected them this year as our backup provider or whatever it is. But it gives you that duality of being able to have the flexible contracts, have the flexible packages, but still be able to lean on some of that vendor marketing material and the stats that are going to help win the customer over with why this particular vendor is so good. So you still have that option. And I just think that's really important, because I know people are going to say, well, if I don't mention anything about vendors, how am I going to convince them I've got a good service? It's not like the Funky Mouse antivirus or Funky Mouse backup product. It is a real vendor that does, this thing for what they do, and they're Gartner leading or whatever. And that's cool. This year, they probably are. Next year, they might be different, and you might have a different product. And it's great if you can position yourself as we've selected it for this year as the leading product for our clients. We review it on a regular basis, and if we find that there's a better product that works better for you and us, we may well change. So just to hit that, because I know people will be saying, oh, you can't just take mentions of the vendor completely out, otherwise you'll have challenges selling it. And just secondly, I've got to say, one of the happiest memories I have is when I was over doing some volunteer work in Uganda, and we had no technology. We had no running water. We had no electricity. We had no lights at nighttime. We were just way out in a village in the middle of nowhere, and you could actually see every single bloody star, and it was amazing. And that's one of those times where you can just go, this is beautiful. This is really nice. You see thunderstorms happening over like a Southern African sky like that, and you can literally just see it arcing right the way across, because there's no light radiating from anywhere. It's beautiful. And that's some of the happiest times. Absolutely no technology.
Nice. There was one last question for you, Robert. Is that vodka raspberry you're drinking?
Good old Vinto.
Yeah,
nice.
Oh, I thought if it was, I could imagine a straw and a little umbrella.
I know we're at the top of the hour, so Robert, thank you so much for joining us. Hey, there we go. That's a little subterfuge. But thank you for joining us. Thank you for coming out of the shadows and being on the show today.
It's a pleasure.
Again, thank you from the bottom of my heart, because I've been trying for 2 years now to get you on a show with me, but I appreciate it. Any parting words?
April 2020. We first
April Fool's Day of 2020. So
yeah,
crazy.
I
Coming
thought,
up on 3 years.
I've got to watch this Andrew Moon, because Scott Riley's there, and I follow Scott Riley.
And you got to have Pete, because he's got the coolest hair of all of us. So
Yeah,
It's true.
Anyway, but Robert, what would your one last advice be to an MSP about upserving your clients, and why to do it now?
Why to do it now? Because if you haven't done it, you should have done it, and it needs to become something regular in the business. And like Pete has said, you want to go to bed, you want to be able to sleep. If something happens to your client, you want them to have the right tools that you can get that business back. If you are not selling the right tools, you aren't servicing that customer to the best of your ability.
Yeah. Increasing sales 65% by straight up just adding new business is a tough slog.
It wasn't for us. It wasn't a focus on the monetary. It was focusing on the actual stack. The monetary side just followed in suit.
Yeah.
So I would almost say, if you are purely focusing on the margin, you're in the wrong industry.
Yep. Amen. Thank you guys again. Thank you, Danny Chaplin, for showing up. Tim Kidney. Any other shout outs? Tony Edwards, John Sarzosa, anybody else that I missed? Appreciate you hanging out with us live today. If you are catching this on the podcast, thank you very much for listening and tuning in. And if you're over on YouTube land, you know how it works. Like and subscribe all day long to all of these gentlemen here. But I appreciate your time, Robert, and joining and filling those big shoes of Richard Tubbs.
Well, you know what? If he's away again, I might come back.
Well, we appreciate that. You'll be our default guest appearance on a regular basis. You're on speed dial again. All right, guys.
Brilliant.
Thanks again.
Thank you for having me. Cheers.
We appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Robert. Really good. Thank you.
Excellent. Yeah, Danny said yes. Thank you. Informative once again. So if you, like I said, if you have questions, please reach out. If you have things you'd like us to cover in future episodes, let us know. But again, we thank you for all of those loyal supporters who watch us week in and week out. And we will see you all next week. Be safe. Take care.